Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I was just looking at the very strange, surprising fact that I have actually made up to 465 episodes on my podcast, you know. And I just got a glimpse of it when I was uploading the last two episodes of mine yesterday and today. And it kept hitting me that, wow, I really did not expect to have uploaded so much. But then, I started thinking, when did I even start? So, as I'm scrolling down once again for the third time, because I can't keep these things in my mind for the life of me, as I'm checking it out and I'm thinking, oh my god, I actually started on January 1st, 2021. January 1st, 2021. New Year 2021. And this is now September 2025. So, not bad considering in so many years 465 episodes. And it's not all, because in the beginning it began with the Q&A session that I had on my book, on the latest book that I had just launched, called A Novel. So I had basically timed its launching to be on the new year, I think, or yeah, I think so. Anywhere, yeah, New Year was officially when it was supposed to have launched as well. So, and then obviously I moved on to talk about our civilization, my take on society and all, which, as you know, is something that I have talked about again and again in different ways. And then a little more about my books and the marketing issues that I've had. And then I went on to talk about, again, society, issues like cyberbullying, abuse and domination, Then I also actually talked because, in this podcast, I didn't just do, you know, issues and society and all. This is an all-in-one podcast. So basically I talked about my books, and because I also teach language, I'm a language coach, so I teach spoken English, and I also work with people who want to learn Urdu, and I also teach French. So these three languages. Because of that, so I did make quite a number of podcasts, on on accents, which now recently I've seen a few people do that. I've seen a few people, some Asian vloggers and also some native English ESL teachers also, who have talked about dialects and accents and all. Yeah, and I first, I was just looking at my first, sort of this is a short version when it comes to a podcast version of a short, you can say, which I also put up on YouTube, obviously, I think. And that was transitioning accents, is where I showed the different accents that come into play. I did another one as well in which I showed how you're simply, when you know so many languages and when at least 2 to 3 languages are spoken in your own country, how you move, how you shift from each language while conversing, you know. So yeah, I did quite a number of those, and these were all, yeah, in the year 2021 is when you will see, I think, the most that I did on accents, transitioning accents, dialects, languages, the usage of Urdu, Punjabi, French, English, in your everyday conversation, and then explaining the difference between Urdu and Hindi, and how Hindi stems from Urdu. And then I also did a podcast on, again, basic list of birds, animals, body parts, this and that, all in Urdu, numbers. Yeah, this was for my Learn Urdu page, or you can say site, that I have, where I communicate online with those who wish to learn Urdu. So I did that, basic sentences in Urdu, lists of colors, descriptive colors, fruits, vegetables, all that. So all the basic things for Urdu learners. I made quite a number of podcasts on those. Then I did flowers, spices, all that. Again, what do you call them in English? What do you call them in Urdu? And the basic questions like the five W's and the one H and how they're used in Urdu. And then I think after that, then I went back to my. I did most of these language oriented for my students and for the people I worked with and coached in 2021 mostly. And after that, every now and then, according to the needs and requirements of any individual that I work with, especially with a native English and with spoken English, that is when then I started every now and then intersecting, audios, which were obviously then were uploaded on my podcast. So there were these short audios on listening, basically how the word is correctly pronounced and how one word means, and grammar, the how to use what article, definite indefinite article, when to use it, when not to use it, when to use which grammar prepositions and all. So I've done quite a number of those too. And then again, but again, I guess the large variety obviously is pertaining to, as I said, it's all naked thoughts on on religion, on laws, you know on the toxicity of society, of people, butterfly effects, pet peeves. Yeah, I've ranted a lot about pet peeves. So I mean, I've come to think of it, I've really covered almost everything under the sun, and I've even covered many things more than once in different ways, if you know what I mean. So, for example, the subject of society is so vast that I've covered almost anything and everything that I could, pertaining to society, degradation of society, our civilization as a whole, sexualizing relationships, about the government, the current illegal government, about cybercrime, about banks, about the flaws in the new and old government and our society, or lack thereof, the system, as in the lack of the system in our society. And I've actually literally talked. There's nothing that I've actually tried to censor. I've talked about all the problems that I've had with the government. Which especially when I highlighted the problems that I was facing when Imran Khan's government came into play, that basically highlighted how the bureaucracy was deliberately ruining things and screwing things up, so that, because obviously they were thinking ultimately the blame will go on Imran Khan, people will get annoyed, they'll get pissed off, they'll say, oh, this government is just as bad as the others and all. But we kind of knew that the bureaucracy was and the government institutions were sabotaging Imran Khan's governance. So it was very clear. So if you look at all the little things through which they harassed people or disturbed people or didn't get stuff done on time for people, and then, yeah, I think I have extensively covered so much on family values, on the culture versus religion, where you're using your culture to exploit your children and you're saying that it's religion when actually religion is telling you the exact opposite of it. So I've extensively talked about so much. It's been almost 5 years. And no wonder I was thinking that, I've literally talked about anything and everything, that people are now. I've heard some recent podcasts that I found so similar, and I was thinking, hang on, I've actually also done that, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, oh my god, I actually did some of those in 2021. I did some of those in 2022. I did some of those in 2023. Some I've done in the past year. Some I've done literally this year. So yeah, so it's a I know in the beginning, actually, I was thinking of making it two separate podcast channels, as in one in which I'd put all the language stuff in, the ESL stuff in, and the French and the Urdu and all that. Then I thought, you know what, just leave it because it's one channel, it's my podcast, and it's supposed to have open access to everybody. So, yeah, you'll find most of my ESL stuff in 2022. That's when I did the most. Um, and then I mean, yeah, I have talked about anything and everything under the sun. I really don't know what else it is that I could, everything I would keep on covering would just probably be something I've already covered before, only maybe I'll cover it in a different angle now. And I covered a lot of what the recent government did right from the time they started, how they hijacked the government, then they hijacked the elections, then the human rights violations. And I've noticed that I have actually always made sure to do a podcast on Eid, on both the Eids, whether it's Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Azha. I always do an Eid special podcast. So I did do some podcast in Urdu, deliberately in Urdu and Punjabi. Again, sometime around 2022, 2023. Then I kind of started sticking more and more to English, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. I am just surprised because, to be honest, when I started the podcast, I didn't expect that I would end up uploading so much, so many episodes. I didn't expect that because when I started the podcast, to be honest, I had kind of stopped talking for years in real life. I just didn't talk to anybody at all, you know. And that's why you'll probably see a few cracks here and there in my voice every now and then in the podcast, is because even now actually I do not talk much with people. I prefer not to talk with people, to be honest. The older I'm growing and the more life has been treating us in this country, to be honest, the lesser interested I am now in people. The more annoyed I am now getting with people because they'll never change. They deliberately act stupid, obtuse. They deliberately ignore something thinking that it will go away if they just ignore it. You know, they are hypocrites and they're cowards. And before I had sympathy and empathy for all of that because I understood them, but now I'm practically at that point where I refuse to understand. Because again, that's the whole point of us being in this world. These are all the tests, if you're not going to go through them, at least don't sabotage others. But that's another problem. Not only do they not do anything, but then they sabotage those who are trying to do something. That makes things worse. They refuse to understand, they refuse to acknowledge where they're wrong. The more wrong they are, the more they argue. So, it's just, I think it's basically wasting your breath, or hitting your head against the wall kind of a thing. So, to me, my sanity is more important than wasting my breath on people. And as I said, the way life is going, I'm getting less and less tolerant, and I'm getting less and less. In other words, I have less and less time for people's diva antics, for people being like divas and drama queens, and I've had enough of all. I don't have time for that. My mental peace is more important to me, and I'm not getting any mental peace as it is anyway, so why should I try to make it worse, right? I mean, I've stopped writing because I can't get mental peace. I've stopped literally everything because I'm not getting back into that frame of mind. This country isn't allowing me to stay normal. So the things I have to do every day to stay normal, it's getting more and more difficult, really. The So yeah, so I'm just amazed that despite all of that, I managed to put up all these episodes. I really did not expect to go more than 20, 30, maybe 100, But yeah. Well, I know that in my podcast, the actual domain, my podcast domain, I know that there's been a lot of you listening to me. And I'm very grateful for that. And I feel very honored that people still think that I'm worth listening to, that people still actually actively immediately start downloading my episodes as soon as they're uploaded. And because sometimes I have to go back to my episodes, to because I don't know what's wrong with my mobile phone, but it's really peeing me off because every single time I'm typing, it ends up putting its own kind of a weird ass sort of a typo that wasn't even there, or it freezes in between, and then I'm still typing, and then so everything goes wrong. So I usually have to return back to fix all the typos and to fix all the mistakes. And I'm usually very, very surprised when I see that, already so many people have started listening to it, or already so many people have downloaded it. So I'm very grateful to all of you, seriously, that you've stuck with me through the years. Those of you who have, and the new ones, I'm even more grateful to you that you actually stopped and thought, oh hey, let's just take a listen to this. Who is this? So as I said, I do not promote my YouTube channel because seriously, I just can't be bothered. And as you can see, I was kind of right not to obsess about YouTube, because YouTube is now, part of that whole social media platform thingy where it's censoring your stuff, and it's, shadow banning your stuff because your government is controlling your stuff and this and that. So they are working the algorithms against you. And as you know, since last year, was it last year? Since last year, YouTube suddenly started messing around with our view counts. Like literally, you will see in so many of my vlogs, or you will see 0 views, and I actually know that those vlogs have happened to have some of they've had huge numbers of views, and I've noticed how it just keeps on putting them at 0, and they're legit views, like they're not, they're legit so yeah, I don't know, but many people have complained about that. So I really don't give a frack about YouTube, just like how I don't give a frack about Metaverse, to be honest. I really don't care about them. This domain is what matters, and if people are listening through my podcasts, directly, then fine. They're listening through Amazon, through Spotify, through Red Circle, the main actual domain, through anywhere and everywhere where the podcasts are. So yeah, I would also much rather have that, where I'm having genuine, audience, a genuine number of audience, rather than going crazy about figuring out why YouTube keeps counting down everything to 0. But those of you, the few people for whom I'm posting it on YouTube, because somehow they feel more comfortable clicking onto the YouTube link, and they literally sometimes ask me, can you please share the YouTube link of this podcast with us? I'm eternally grateful to those, and it is for them that I very now meticulously post my podcasts on YouTube. I upload them on YouTube as well. And for them, again, I would say, what? Feel free to put down your comments. Don't think that you're not allowed because it's a podcast. Feel free to put down your comments. You don't have to always. You don't have to think that, you have to DM me in order to put your point of view across. Feel free to write it out there if you want to, but actually the thing is that, again, the people who are the ones for whom I'm uploading everything on YouTube, there are people who are very close to me and who know me personally, so I guess they find it more comfortable to just talk to me directly and say, oh yeah, there was that and there was that, and so yeah, that's just as fine. As I said, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, for those who think that, maybe who are hesitant, that they don't want to comment, Feel free, seriously. It doesn't matter, you know. But I mean, I am just surprised that I managed to reach this far. I am genuinely, because I've literally, my whole life has stopped. Everything has stopped. This is literally the only thing in my life that's going on. So, and I'm amazed because, to be honest, I expected this to stop a long time ago too. Yeah, so this was just a shout out to everybody, and a an acknowledgement of how surprising it is, the things that we actually you know end up continuing, which we don't expect. So yeah, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.